Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited. It's Friday, it's fun day, and I'm working it. And it's going to be one of the most enlightening, productive change is the topic for today at training. Come join me 11 a.m. It's all Q&A, talking about how we can create productive change and working for that. Peter, welcome, my friend. Welcome, everybody. Jeremy, didn't hear from you, my brother. You in Oklahoma or here? Love to see you. Alex, Joe, let me know where you are. Brook LeAnn, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, happy Friday. All right, let's start with some questions. Might as well get me warmed up. Colleen, good morning. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so much for all you do. I have updates for you. We had a lot of calls this morning. Joseph, long time no see. I got some Harlem whiskey in the mail yesterday. I have never seen something so packed. It was incredible. It was unbelievably packed. It took me forever. Hey, Samir, you're alive. What's up, brother? And let's go ahead and go live. Questions in here. Welcome, everyone. It's Friday, training day, Q&A day. We are going to talk about productive change.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I just have some questions for you.
Please.
Because I saw something when all of this was happening. You came online and said, if you look at statistics, things like this are happening less and less. But I also think we need your message more now than ever. So I was wondering, like, what can we do, like everybody, to flip this and make it into a positive? Because rioting or looting is not helping anyone. It's anger, which is regulatory emotions. But what do you think we can do as a collective consciousness to help?
I'm not for committing crimes, and people can argue that committing crimes can help because it perturbates the system, right? It perturbs the system. Social deviance creates change, and people can make arguments on every side. I will give you an example of, Black Lives Matter. Now, if you say that, which is something that I believe Black Lives Matter, and then I have is even close to high school friends that are police officers, reaming me on the other side, saying, how can you say that? This is the purpose of Black Lives Matter, is to kill police officers, which I don't believe. I believe Black Lives Matter, but I have to deal with that person and their anger and their position and their racist attitude, whatever it is. But on the other side, then I could say, well, all lives matter. Well, I do believe all lives matter, but I don't want to dismiss Black Lives Matter. And so if I say all lives matter, then a lot of people come out, white and black, and say, hey, don't dismiss Black lives. Don't say all lives matter. That's what makes this so difficult. And so what I want people to do is to be gracious, right? To look at the light, the love, and the lessons that we need to learn and be productive about this. Be forgiving, right? Be forgiving and forgive yourself for all the things that you've done to create interference and corrosion to the unbelievable pursuit of what we want, right? Peace and happiness, equality, all these things that we want, the oneness of the universe, which are theoretical things of potential. And then accountability, right? We need to be accountable. What did you do? You personally, me personally, to attract this in my life? Because I don't know. I've never asked enough questions to know exactly what the issues are. I've never, until now, gone to the police chief and said, how is it systematically that someone can have 18 complaints and still be on the force, right? Because these are the systematic problems that need to be addressed. And I am capable and accountable for never going and asking the people in charge, because I have access to them, how can I effectively make a change to a system? All of our institutions, right? We've talked about this far before COVID, far before the incidences that have occurred. Far before the acceleration of technology, we need to rethink all of our institutions. One of them is our justice system, financial system, all of them, education system, all of them need to be changed. And we only have so much capacity. So we have to take that perspective of, okay, if we're angry, let's stop, drop, and roll. We're angry, let's figure out why. Let's listen. Let's work together, collaborate to make a change. But let's not just blame, shame, and justification. Let's go make a change. Let's go to the people. If you have connections at the DMV, let's go ahead and review the DMV system and figure out how we can create equality in the DMV, at the justice system, in our police force, in our fire, our judges, our teachers, our education system. You know, some people think there should be reparations for African American people that we stole from their homeland and brought over here, right? Let's look at that. Should we provide free education for anyone that's African American? Should we provide free education, college, graduate school, all these things? Let's go be productive and make change. But my biggest concern is that people are focusing in on the shortages, the voids, the obstacles. And like you said, they can create more harm than good. You have every right to do what you want to do. Social deviance, you can burn whatever you want. We have laws in place that you will have to answer to if you do those types of things. Not my place to say, this is America. This is America. But I'm encouraging people to take a positive, productive route and listen and learn from each other and collaborate with each other. Let's think about what we're doing. Because, you know, at its basis, anything that I say right now, I can have people destroy me. Anything I say, they can tell me, because I am not an African American, nor do I purport to be one, nor would I ever purport to know what it would be like to be an African American. But I am in support of equality and oneness. And I want all of my brothers and sisters, no matter what color, what religion, I want them to live a happy, fruitful, peaceful life. And so I'm going to work really hard. And most importantly, Gigi, Georgina, I'm not going to quit, right? You and I both know historically why this has continued to happen is because everybody's a shiny light, and it's like, we'll be on to the next issue until something else happens. Let's not quit. Let's create productive change. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, and also I'm gonna another thing, and this is plays so well here. You are talking about 85% of people are willing to kill someone because someone else is telling them. So how can we raise, like, I think if we work on that, let's say not 85, but 50%, how can we level up their consciousness? Like, how can we work on that?
So, you know, one person at a time, right? One person at a time to teach them, to teach others, to teach others. This is a marathon. This is a lifelong marathon. Progress, not perfection. We need to look, and if you look back, let's go ahead and indicate where we have made progress. I don't know the numbers, but I'm starting to gather stable data of where we have progress and where we don't, and figure out where we need the most attention and intention to create the coincidences that we want. So whether it's 30, 50, 87% of the people that will do what other people will tell them without making their own minds up, they will vote for what other people want for them, and all the way to taking another person's life. Let's figure out, okay, how do we create progress? I know progress is created through consistent, persistent behavior. If we enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of whatever potential it is, then we will accelerate and grow at an exponential rate if we do it every day and we don't quit. But as you know, I believe that 99% of the people quit when they're 25% of the way there. And then another 99% of the 1% quit when they're 50% of the way there. That works in business. That's why the 1% of the 1% are successful entrepreneurs, executives, business people. But unfortunately, in this circumstances, 1% of 1% are not going to effectuate change. We need more people, like you said, to join in to the consistent, persistent fight, looking at their own personal, everyone has different capabilities, right? They have different skills, they have different knowledge, situational knowledge, they have different experiences. Let's use your skills, your capabilities for what you believe you can have the greatest impact, and prioritize that consistently and hopefully create productive change. Is that good?
Yeah, it's great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Join me at 11. We're going to handle more of these questions as well. And love people's comments. Obviously, not a perfect answer. And I expect that I'm going to learn a lot from people telling me, hey, have you ever thought when you say this, this means this to me, but this means this to them. We can only provide the best that we do. And I hope people are patient, forgiving, gracious, and I will be accountable for everything I say as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Steve. All right. Well, there's a little taste of what we're going to do as we jump into the day. We're going to take these type of questions at 11 a.m. Not going to do our normal entrepreneurial training. I think it's more important to raise the awareness of what issues are, how we can be productive in creating change, share our perspectives so people know what it's like from our point of view, and then be gracious, forgiving, accountable, and inspired by it. And let's clear the interference and corrosion so that we can do that. Want to make sure that we get the right things to do, and make sure that we are getting as many people as we can to help. So looking at that, thank you, LeAnn, Colleen. It's going to be great. It's going to be a very emotional for me time here. More important or more popular? I think you have to see how popularity is part of creating the importance, right? Like people's values are determined by what's popular. And so we have to balance in the spectrum between our personal experiential giving and receiving values, which are the determinant factors of what's important to us, right? If we take inventory of our values, we'll know what's important to us. That doesn't mean it's important to other people. If something's popular, then that may be indicative that it's important to a popular group of people, a mass group of people. And if we need to re-engineer those values, then we better be able to articulate why in order to help re-engineer those values so that your importance becomes popular as well. Popularity is segmented, as you know. There's 4.4 billion people. And so it's changed the spheres of popularity, where if you lived in a small town in Zionsville, Indiana, you could be very popular with your beliefs, yet nobody else in the world would agree with them. They wouldn't be important to anybody else. Now, as you could tell through social media, that we get the ability to see different groups of popularity. And these are all things I want people to think about. They will help you understand how can you impact the things that you want to impact in the most productive way, not destructive, productive way, to create the exponential growth and acceleration for the progress that you're looking for from your perspective. And I want that perspective to create a collective consciousness that Black lives matter. And by saying Black lives matter, you're not saying anything else about, police don't matter or white people don't matter. It's Black lives matter. And we have not put a priority on making sure that people know how much it matters. How do you overcome doubt? Practice, right? Practice ending fear. So first, practice understanding what doubt is. It's the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry. Those are all needs of the ego that project your doubt. And so one, learn what doubt is, and then learn to identify it, and then be a ferocious Buddha and stop, drop, and roll. Jen Welter's in the house. Talk about someone who understands what's it like. This is the first woman NFL coach in history, and she is a hero of mine and a friend. There she is. Oh, she must be in Florida. That's the Florida connection.
Good morning, Dave. How we doing?
I'm good. Where are you? You California or Florida?
I am in California. Nope.
Oh, we got well, it's you never get to see anyone anymore, so I don't know where you're at. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on. If people don't know, Jen Welter, like I said, is one of my heroes. She's the first woman NFL coach. She has trudged the way of consistent, persistent behavior. And I think your success in your fight in your life with your perspective of what you have to deal with is very prevalent today to help people collaborate and make and create change, because you're one of those people, you know, just like my business partner, Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, that have been able over decades to make change. I know my girls, their whole perspective of what's possible has changed because of you, and millions of women in the world, their perspective has changed. Well, you know, we are very close to Black Lives Matter, and we haven't got the change that we've been looking for over the last 50, my life is 50 years. So I was hoping that you could maybe give a little bit of insight on how we can stay consistent for productive change, and, you know, how you deal with so many different opinions when everyone, 99% of people, I believe, have the same common goal, but we get caught up into the little perspective differences and then nothing gets done.
You know, I think one of the first things for any of us is, like, I always joke, and you know, this is like one of my infamous things to say, is like, I might be a coach, but I'm coachable, right? Like, and that means you don't have all the answers, but you can be willing to ask questions and hopefully get closer to a truth together, right? Like, you know, people would ask me, my favorite was when I was going to the NFL and they'd say, well, how did you command respect from the guys? And I was like, ooh, first of all, command. Like, we have problem number one, even in the question that you're asking. You don't command respect, you gain respect, you earn respect, and you come to a shared understanding that we're on the same page to get better together, right? And you can't help somebody get somewhere if you don't know where they're trying to go, right? Or how they're going to respond to, you know, a certain situation, or, you know, a certain coaching style. So it really requires listening first and loving someone enough to want to know the answers. And then once you know, and I tell people this, whether I'm coaching them on perspective, like, I can only help you to the extent that you will trust me enough to bring me into your world, right? To let me see through your eyes, hear through your ears, feel through your heart, and play a game in your cleats, right? Because if you trust me enough to bring me in close, then I can help you. But other than that, I'm just guessing. And it may be a really good guess, and sometimes I'll be right, but other times I'll be wrong. Not because I meant to be wrong, or I meant to be hurtful, or I meant to say something ever to hurt you, but I only know what you will bring me into see, feel, and experience. And football, you know, has done that for me, right? I remember Warren, you know, years ago, right? Like, and we've known each other now for years. And I remember I just asked him one time, I was like, you know, Warren, why have you been so great to me for, you know, so long? Like, never, I mean, it was never like there was a moment. It was just there, right? Like, both of you guys. And he said, honey, I think the only thing harder than being an African-American quarterback is being a female coach, because they've never seen you before. They fought me, but they've never seen you before. And I was like, it hit me so deeply, right? And that was the same thing that we had with the players that I coached. Is they're like, man, coach, we thought it was hard for us to get here, but for you. And those players were so protective of me in terms of, yes, she belongs here. And you know, not saying that they didn't, right? Like, that they didn't see I was different. Obviously, I'm different, right? I'm a girl. This is hard to ignore. It is different. And not to try and make me into being a boy, but they loved and respected that I was different. And in that, they welcomed me for that difference, and to make that different voice heard. And that is what the heart of diversity and inclusion is, right? When you get different voices to the table, let them be heard, right? And don't lose that voice, because every perspective is so valuable that we in the right situations want to hear them, because they do make us all better through that understanding.
I think the word allowance, as you were talking, comes to mind. Like, allow me to share in your experience, allow me to share in your vision. Even historically, the word command, I know how they meant it, means work with, right? Like when you talk about the 10 commandments, it's working with God to be a better person, to live to your higher self. That's what those 10 commandments are. That he's not demanding you, he's wanting to work with and allow you to share in that experience so that we can all work and proceed and be productive. And I think, there's a lot of interference to that. And my main objective is two things. Let's get rid of the interference so we can get productive, right? As a coach, if I use Herb Brooks as an example, he had everybody hating him. So they would all work together because they were all kids from different colleges that hated each other, right? They're all Boston, Minnesota. These guys literally, and plus they were outclassed by almost all the other Olympic teams. He had a big hill to climb. Well, he knew that he needed to allow them to come together. And that's what we need to do. So, if we can have some sort of focal point to get rid of that interference and corrosion and allow this unbelievable source that we have of power, light, and love that is omnipresent, and yet we get in our own ways, both between us and that source, but also between each other, because we're not allowing each other to share in the experience, to share in the ability to both ask for help and provide help. And we get so caught up into the nuances of our own personal story and rhetoric that we get in the way of what majority of the people want, which is progress. Right. And I keep saying you go too far when you're like, and I'm a very spiritual person. So I can say, I want oneness. Well, even my life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. There's still 7 billion people, right? It's not like I want to make everybody happy in the world. It's because I literally want progress that will create, an effective change. What are some of the things that you saw? Because it takes a long time. You've been in the marathon a long time. There's now other women that are referees and umpires and coaches and, even players in college, and which is super cool. And you were a great player, by the way. But it's decades that it takes. I'd love for you to share, like, through the struggle and through the interference, what progress have you seen with that allowance now today that wasn't even close 20 years ago when you first set out on your mission?
The first thing I want to tell everyone is that, like, so many times we focus on, like, the highlight reel of life, like the good moments and the things that are shiny, right? Or the titles. And the more interesting times are actually the hard ones, the ones that are done in the trenches, in the work that no one sees, that most people don't even know that you experienced, right? Like, people talk about, oh, well, you made it to the NFL, like you're living the dream. I remember that was a big one for me. And I even talked about it at the press conference when I was hired. I was like, every time I heard that, I had to correct them and say, no, actually, I'm not living the dream, because this is a dream I wasn't permitted to have. There was no one I could look at and say, I want to be her. But the beauty of this is that now it's a dream that anyone else can have, right? Like, that is what the essence and power of a first is. It is creating the opportunity for there to be a second, a third, a fourth. And it's the permission to dream and see yourself in a place, in a space where there wasn't anything, right? And so for me, knowing that I didn't have that person is a lot of what makes me so active now, is to, try and be that person for as many people as I can, right? It is encouraging the trenches, it's encouraging the fight, it's starting girls camps, it's being a vocal advocate, it's educating people on, how amazing the men were in the National Football League to stand up for me, and that I won't back down on the quality of their character because they've never backed down, for me, right? Like, they stood up for me, I'm going to stand up for them. And I think the strength to do those things comes from the love of all of the people who you have known and fought with along the way, right? People would say, well, you know, how did you get back up from that? Probably not through me, right? Like we always say in football, we say football, family, and faith. You know what those are? Those are reasons to play for something bigger than yourself, right? If I don't have the strength in and of myself, would I get up for my teammate? Absolutely. Would I get up for my team? 100%. Would I get up for the people I consider family? You darn right. And would I get up because I believe that there's a purpose in even the trials that we're going through? Absolutely. But would we do it just for ourselves if it had no bigger impact? Some days, right? Some days, yes. But some days we might just stay on the ground, or we might just, you know, lay in bed a little bit longer, right? And so in my time in football, certain parts of it, unfortunately, for women have not changed as much as we'd like them to, right? It's still not a financial, right? It's not. It's still the only sport that doesn't have parity at any level from peewees to pros. However, the things that you see that to me are encouraging in terms of progress, you know, you mentioned girls playing in college. It's interesting. I just tagged both Becca Longo and Tony Harris, who I know and love. Like they are fierce, amazing females, in a post I made earlier. So, you know, seeing them in college, that wasn't possible, right? Like that didn't happen. And there will be more girls who play in, you know, on men's teams or boys teams because of them, right? Just like when I played men's pro football, that wasn't possible. And there will be more who do it because of that, right? But now for the first time also just recently, the NAIA announced that they're going to have varsity girls flag football in college in 2021, right? Like, so now it changes the game completely. When I started doing my girls camps, right, which now I've done 35 across the country. And to me, that was one of the most important things I could do, because 7 out of 10 girls who drop out of sports say there are not enough visible female role models in sports. To me, that was like, if I'm not that person, then the wrong female was the first coach in the NFL. If I'm not out on the field with those girls, then I shouldn't have been the one because I'm not strong enough, right? Or I don't have the courage. And so almost everything that I do and the barometer I run myself by is if I don't have the strength or the voice or the capacity, then somebody else should have done what I did. Then somebody else should be here. If I'm not willing to stand up for my players, then somebody else should be here. If I'm not willing to open the door for other women, then somebody else should be here, right? If I'm not willing to be out on the field with those girls, someone else should have done what I did. And that means other people will go further and do more in a different direction, which is great. If you are the person who opens the door, you have to realize, number one, that some people will not like you for it. And number two, that you will open doors that you are not allowed to walk through. That is the truth. But there has to be something bigger to it for you. When I started, everybody laughed. When I started the girls' camps, right, it made history in the NFL, and yet everybody was laughing because I wanted girls to not necessarily decide they wanted to play football, but be able to have the decision. Like, get them out on the field, teach them the right way to do it, and if they want to play, they should be able to play. If they don't want to play, then do something else. But don't make the decision for them, right? And so, and yet now, 2.5 years later, that vision or forethought or grit is now positioned it so people are like, oh, of course we know Gridiron Girls. Like, you know, that's the place to be in terms of girls football. And then when people want to say, oh, okay, well, we've never done girls before, how do we do it? They call me and they're like, well, coach, you're the expert. Well, yeah, because we've been doing it now for 2.5 years. And that means I bang my head against a lot of the wrong walls, right? But now girls and women can see places where they can dream football. If you can play in college, that means the next thing will be what? You can get a scholarship to play in college, right? Which means that football now becomes a sport that can change the lives of girls, similar to the way it's changed the lives of so many guys. And then we're really creating a system that will allow for generational change, right? And those girls will be able to start their football dreams earlier, which means they'll have the opportunity to play longer and get better. And you will see them continue to go higher and higher and higher. And I think for me, I've always thought, or came to the realization long after I thought I could just tackle everybody into loving girls playing football. And it took me being retired to realize that, like, no matter how many people I tackled, I wasn't just going to win them over that way. Like, I might have to get a little smarter. But through the girls, it's really hard to argue, right? And that's why I tell people, we teach confidence through football. And we teach them there is no game you cannot play and no field you do not belong in or on. The right to choose is yours. And that's what's so important, right? And now that to me is the progress point, right? That and that's where we get better together because we're willing to look at things differently and open doors for other people.
Exactly. Last question real quick, and people are like, you got to post this because they're loving this, and I love your insight and true perspective. The last thing I want is your opinion on, there's so much anger involved throughout the decades of the laughing, the scoffing, the making fun of. I always say they laugh at you, scoff at you, make fun of you, then they applaud you. How did you deal with the anger? Because there's so much anger today, and I'd love to get some insight. Allow us to share with you that experience so that maybe we can get over the anger and make it more productive so that we can create new role models and new perception and circumstances for people to progress.
Well, you know, I've kind of realized, like, and you know me on this, Dave, it's like there's very few shades of gray when it comes to me. People are either going to love me or hate me. Now, their reasoning will be pretty much the same regardless, right? Like, the scouting report will be the same. Why they love me or hate me, like, oh, she's always pushing for change or this, that, the other. Well, yeah, you're right. And it's not okay. Status quo is not okay. Your comfort zone is not my problem, right? Like, you know, you think about somebody who's in a hammock, they're comfortable. They're chilling. They probably have a Mai Tai. Do you think that they're going to get up if you don't swing that hammock? No, they're not. And are they going to like you because you swung their hammock? Nope, you spilled their drink, right? So you have just rained on their parade because you weren't okay with them just living in their comfort zone, which means they're going to be angry about you. And yet what I've realized is that, like, if it's impossible to be neutral, right? Neutral is not an option when you want change, right? When you believe that someone else deserves an opportunity, then you're going to be an instigator. And the people who hate you for it are the ones who have something to lose, not something to gain, right? Those who are in power, who are in the hammock, who are comfortably chilling and would benefit by nothing changing. Those are the ones who will not respect you for being an advocate for other people. And yet the people who will love you for it are the ones who are with you in the trenches and want someone who will be a champion for them, right? And we all need champions, right? And whether those changes are big or small, they have to be yours and they have to be sincere, because people will look back at your track record, right? And that's the thing. Don't just all of a sudden jump up and say, I'm with you. If you're not going to say, you know what? I didn't see it before, but I see it now. And thank you for the gift of awakening, because anybody can come to that. You know, you see a lot of guys, right? For example, I'm going to take it into another space, who all of a sudden look at the way they've treated women very differently when they have a daughter, right? Like, that is an awakening that comes through a personal experience, and they're like, oh my gosh. Or they see somebody treat, like, their mom disrespectfully. They're like, oh, but you did that to the girl just the other day. oh my gosh, because things have to become personal. And so if you are at a tipping point right now of your psyche and you are seeing things in a way that's different, thank the people who opened your eyes, but don't pretend like you've always been there, right? You, once you see learn it, you can't unlearn it. So what are you going to do with the information once you've gotten it? I have had more people be not knowing anything about me, then I could count with the people who do know me, right? Just the fact that I existed at times made people uncomfortable. Just the fact that I existed got me death threats. And you know what I realized? Let them win. And if you're like me, that's what you kind of go, but wait, something happened to the extent that my very existence made somebody so frightened and angry that they would threaten me to take away my voice. That means your voice has power. And that's when you really have to say that, like, there is a purpose in this. And that anger is their problem, not yours. And the best thing that you can do when you experience that anger is, you know, if it's social media, just don't read it. Like, honestly, you cannot like get involved in the haters. I have found my social media following in the last, I don't know, couple weeks has like dropped because I'm just blocking people. Nope. But, oh, you didn't like that post of that? Don't need you, right? Like, I don't need 1 million followers. I would rather have, you know, 10,000 followers who all wanted to live on a better planet, right? And that we're spreading those messages than a whole lot of people who just want to throw fuel into the fire. So it takes some reflection and some deep breaths, and then also always going back to what is important to the core of your spirit, right? What will you speak up for, stand up for? Why is that important? And it really has resonated with me in, you know, I can't breathe. Breath is literally the difference between life and death. And yet when you take someone's breath, you also take their voice. And when you take someone's voice, you or the ruling class or the powerful strove to do was to fracture, divide, and take away the strength of voice. And so, you know, anger might just be the confirmation that you're doing the right things. Your breath. You might be living, but are you alive? And is it a life you want to live? Right? Are you the human on this planet that you want to be, or are you just checking the box? Because I don't understand checking the box. I can't. I'm not built that way. I know you're not. That's why we've connected for so long, is because that's not okay, right? Like
it's not okay. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And that's what you live by, right? For me, you know, I love the fact that and I'm watching the comments as you're talking as well, right? It's really simple. mistakes that I've made, right? Because of the amount of money that I lost. Because in 2006, I was a moron. 2008, I went bankrupt. But I've represented the Clemente family. I've represented Warren Moon. I've been his partner and his friend and had to witness and allow myself to learn the lessons of African-American athletes and people, but I don't know them all. I'm still learning, and my values keep changing, and people need to keep explaining things to me. And please take the time to explain them to me.
Great.
That's going to help. I'm a very influential person, not on just social media. Like, I'm a traditionally blocked me because of the truth. Well, first of all, I'm in the pursuit of the truth. I wish I knew the truth, and I would never block someone for saying the truth. If you're swearing or hurting someone, that'd be the only reason that me. Most of the time when someone says something I don't like, I give them my cell phone because I want to understand and I want to learn.
And so many people we love is like, we want to get better. There is perfection is really just in a picture, and it's a whole lot of Photoshop. But again, the willingness to bring each other in, right, and allow us to see
in a hateful way at me. So I saw that one too. Yeah, Gary, I prefer not to curse and don't do it that often, but I don't curse in anger at people. So I try not to do that. I try not to do a lot of things, right? But I forget every lesson I've ever learned, and I'm doing my best. Put judgments, conditions on other people and project onto other people when our hammocks arrive. Great. All right, everyone. I'll handle one more question and then we'll get going here. Let's see here. Is it possible to help people expand the lens they look at with life? So the lenses that I use are productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. How much value and service can I provide to the best of my capability? Accessible am I to others, and how am I accessing what I want? And gratitude are lessons. How can I find the light, the love, and the lessons in everything that I do? Pain is an indicator. Pain is an indicator that there are lessons to learn. Physical, emotional, spiritual, financial pain just means we have something to learn. But if we're not going to allow each other to learn from each other, inspiration. This has been a great day. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I pinned it below. You can text me at 949-298-2905 if you haven't registered yet. Look forward to seeing everyone. Remember, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Have a great day.